Morning. This is Pat O'Connell calling to order the New Mexico Public Regulation Commission's regular open meeting. It's Thursday, May 15th, 10 a.m. We're hybrid, so we're broadcasting online through the YouTube channel, and then we're also in person here at the New Mexico State Capitol. We had office upset due to the recent rains, and so we're not in that building today. Please keep track of where we are in 2 weeks. So I can't tell you at this moment where that's going to be. So thanks for joining us here. It looks like plenty of people found us here. I don't know if anybody's over at the Boca building, but there's a sign on the door. So hopefully they'll show up. Okay, so Mr. Cameron, can you call the roll?
Commissioner Nybert?
Present.
Commissioner O'Connell?
Present.
Commissioner Aguilera?
Present.
All the commissioners are present and you have a quorum, Mr. Chair.
Great, thank you. So we'll stand and do Pledge of Allegiance, state pledge. I'm assuming there's a flag behind the door over there. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Salute the flag of the state of New Mexico as the symbol of perfect friendship among united cultures. Commissioners, we've got an agenda in front of us. Do we need to make any adjustments before we proceed? Okay, so seeing none, we will proceed with the agenda that was posted Monday morning. And that means next up is public comment. Is there anyone here who would like to provide public comment this morning? Yes, sir. Looks like we've got someone here. So I guess if you could go ahead and sit at the chair here. And then when you get to the chair, push the button that's circled in red to make it green. And then can you start by saying who you are and if you're representing anybody?
I love these microphones. They're better than ones we have at our city council chamber. So I'm Dr. Martin Moore, City Manager, City of Rio Communities, New Mexico. Those of you who don't know, we're located about 30 minutes south of Albuquerque, across the river from Berlin.
Mr. Chair, I'm Randall Van Vleck. I'm the city attorney for the City of Rio Communities.
And the reason we just came forward for public comment, some of your staff was very gracious, gave us some clarification before, so we'll keep our comments brief. We wanted to let you know that we're here today, and we had provided some initial paperwork where New Mexico Water Service Company, which is one of the ones that has an application, we have a franchise agreement with them. As the City of Rio Communities, they are right now the provider in our community, and we are looking forward to an affirmative on our application to intervene in this so that we can be partners. We have briefed New Mexico Water Service Company on our desire, and they encouraged us to go ahead and put in a request and application to intervene. So we're here to notify you of that, and then hear what comes out of the initial order.
Mr. Chairman, I would just add that we do have a pending motion to intervene in this matter. This matter is of great importance to the city. And we would like to be in a position where we could make comments that are going to be favorably received by this commission and to be fully informed of the process of this matter. So we'd urge you to rule favorably on that motion when you get a chance.
Great, thank you. And thank you for traveling to Santa Fe to provide your comment. Is there anybody else here who would like to provide a comment? Seeing none, and then Jordan, do we still have? Okay, so we didn't have anybody register online to provide public comment. So I'm going to move to the next item on the agenda, the announcements section. So we'll start with Office of General Counsel.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just have a couple of quick announcements. First, just piggybacking off of what you mentioned about keeping an eye on where we're located for the next open meeting in 2 weeks. Also, next week, I would encourage people to keep an eye if they are planning on attending the public comment hearing on the energy efficiency rule. That's scheduled for next Thursday at 10 a.m. My assumption at this point is that will be in the usual spot, but we may not. So just keep an eye on that. And then because it's so close in time, I feel like I would be remiss if I didn't mention that our appellate specialist had a birthday yesterday. So happy birthday to Aaron. And then also in the good news front, we have a new OGC attorney who started on Monday. His name is Will Mount. And we immediately threw him into rate school. So that's where he's been all week. And hopefully he is surviving that and will be here in person somewhere on Monday. So that's it.
Great, thank you. And then just a couple of things from Commissioner Land. Just reminder that, we have this new reliability metrics rule. And so utilities have filed the metrics. There's also a requirement in the rule to present no later than June 1st, report to the commission at an open meeting. So if you, a utility or two, I think, has started to that process of organizing, appearing at the next open meeting. So if you haven't done so, please do, because the next open meeting is the meeting before June 1st. So anyway, looking forward to that. Commissioners, did you have any other?
Mr. Chair, it was a pleasure to meet with the rural electric co-ops at their annual meeting yesterday. Ms. Corey and I spoke briefly about the matters of the commission, and had we known that it was Aaron's birthday, we probably could have arranged something either there or at Meta. We did tour the Meta facility after that meeting and learned a lot, and we had a number of hearing examiners and other of our staff attend that tour, learning about what these large data center loads are and seeing the tremendous capabilities of what goes on in those buildings and the enormous heat generated from that activity. It's quite astounding. So had a good time yesterday, but God, I wish you would have told us 24 hours earlier about the birthday. We could have had a celebration yesterday. Thank you.
Had a data cake? Okay, so then the public facing activity of the commission is picking up between now and our next meeting in 2 weeks. There are a couple hearings. Mr. Cameron already mentioned the public comment session on the energy efficiency incentive rulemaking. We also have a hearing on case 25 number 2. That starts Tuesday, May 20th. That's the case about New Mexico Gas Company's line extension policy. Another hearing that starts on Wednesday, May 28th, the day before the next open meeting on SPS's energy efficiency plan. That's case 2400269. And then another workshop on May 28th, 9 a.m. That's docket 258, and that's the rule 17.9.568, which is the interconnection rule for rural electric co-ops. And then again, we'll be meeting again in person somewhere on May 29th. Oh. Yeah, and then Commissioner Nyberts reminded me this another thing that we should announce is Monday we were in Ruidoso to pick up the conversation about broadly, we've been talking about wildfire quite a bit. That one was an opportunity just for lessons learned from a specific fire that was almost a year ago now. So thank you to Inn of the Mountain Gods for hosting us there. And then thank you to everybody who participated. From my point of view anyway, learned quite a bit and interested to learn how telecommunications and felled trees are part of the wildfire conversation. So those are all the announcements I had. Commissioner Aguilera, did you have anything?
No, I don't, Chair. You covered it. I was going to mention also the conversation that we had on Monday about the fires in Ruidoso. And the only thing I'll say is that they dealt with a lot, and the first responders did a great job of protecting people. And it's also clear that they've taken the lessons learned and have implemented procedures that will help them in the future. And I think it would be wise for other communities to take a look at that as well. The only way we get through those situations is to share our experience and learn from each other. So.
Yeah, well said. Thank you. Next up on the agenda is approval of prior meeting minutes. We have 4 meeting minutes in our packet. There's April 16th special open meeting, April 16th, the special open meeting in the afternoon, the April 17th regular open meeting, and then the April 24th special open meeting. Commissioners, did we have any changes we need to make to those minutes?
Chair, I made very minor edits to actually one edit. It was like a spacing change to the minutes for April 17. I was not able to edit it in Board Effect, and so I asked staff to do that. And so if it's not in there already, it'll be there soon. And then with respect to the minutes for April 24, also just a minor change to reflect that Commissioner Nybert and I were at the meeting in person. So it's just a matter of deleting that it says that we were via Zoom.
Yeah, thank you. Anything else? No. And I will move for adoption of the minutes with the edits noted in this discussion.
Well, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, so the minutes have been adopted. Next up on consent action, there's quite a few cases on consent action. We've got 10 items there. Commissioner, did you have any questions, discussion before we vote on the consent items? No, seeing none, then I will move for adoption of the proposed orders on the consent action agenda. Mr. Cameron?
Commissioner Aguilera,
Aye.
Commissioner O'Connell.
Aye.
Commissioner Nybert.
Yes.
The motion to adopt the orders in the consent agenda passes unanimously, Mr. Chair.
Great, thank you. Okay, so that moves us to regular action items. The first item is case 240089 UT. That is the application of Public Service Company in New Mexico for revision of its retail electric rates. We've got a potential final order in that case and presentation led by Mr. Lundeen from Office of General Counsel. Floor is yours, sir.
Thank you, Chairman. Good morning, Commissioners. On November 26th of 2024, the majority of the parties to this case filed the unopposed comprehensive stipulation in hopes of resolving comprehensively the issues that were considered during the case. The parties agreed to base rates for PNM's customers. It would result in a $105 million rate increase to cover the costs of replacing aging equipment, facilities, improve and expand the system to accommodate increasing generation resources. It would cover operational cost increases, protect against cyber and physical threats, and respond to inflation. The rate increase is proposed to be a phase-in, 50% by July 1st of this year and 50% by April 1st of next year. Additionally, the stipulation, it contains many other provisions, but significantly, it additionally contains a one-time shareholder contribution of $1.5 million to the Good Neighbor Fund. On April 8th, your 2 hearing examiners in this case filed their certification of stipulation, recommending full approval of the stipulation. No exceptions were filed to that certification. For today, I've drafted and provided you a potential final order, which would adopt the certification in full, thereby approving the stipulation and setting new rates for PNM customers. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Lundeen. Commissioners, any questions or for Mr. Lundeen or comments? Do you want to go?
Mr. Chair, Well, I'm new to the process. There was one matter of the stipulation that kind of jumped off the page to me, and I'm not sure that public policy should encourage one aspect of it. And while I believe the stipulation should be approved, and I'll certainly vote in favor of it here in a moment, we should encourage parties to settle matters. It saves a lot of time, a lot of effort, and frankly, for the ratepayers, it saves a lot of expenses that would otherwise be passed on to the ratepayers. And so I think it's important for the commission to encourage parties to settle these types of cases and to come to reasonable resolution and resolve their differences in that manner. That said, I was troubled by paragraph 13, which really is a provision that requires P&M to make a gift. And I've always noted that gifts that are forced are really not gifts. They're just another cost of doing business. And so while I support the stipulation, support the settlement in this case, and vote for it, I don't think that from a public policy perspective, the commission ought to encourage maybe the potential for someone to extract something that they might not otherwise want extracted. And in extreme cases, it could lead to opportunism, maybe coercive behavior. And we certainly don't want to encourage that type of behavior in these settlements. So while I will agree with it, I would like to highlight the fact that I am concerned about that one issue. And that will be something that if there's future settlements that we will be, at least I will be looking intently at, because we don't want to do anything that someone will only come to the bargaining table if they get their particular way or get their particular charitable organization funded or whatever. I don't think we should encourage that. So from a public policy perspective, I'm a little troubled by that type of provision. I know that judges have been disciplined in the past for, giving people deferred sentence if a contribution is made to their favorite charity. We public policy does not want to encourage that type of activity. So for that reason, I'll probably send out a concurring opinion that discusses that issue in a little more depth. But that's one thing that did trouble me in this particular settlement, although I don't find that behavior to be present here, and I will certainly vote for the stipulated settlement. And I do appreciate the parties coming to a resolution and saving not only this commission a lot of time and effort, but ultimately saving the ratepayers in the P&M service area additional monies that they ultimately would have to pay through protracted, I'll call it litigation, through protracted proceedings on this issue. So thank you for the opportunity.
Great, thank you for that. Commissioner Aguilera, did you have anything you'd like to say or a question for Mr. Lundin?
I don't have any questions. I want to thank the parties in this case for their show of goodwill and understanding of the case, and for being able to come to a resolution that is mutually agreeable. This case has a lot of parties and representing a lot of different customers and interests. And so I think it's always difficult to come to a resolution when you have so many parties, but the parties were able to accomplish that, and I appreciate it. I think that shows a positive environment for the utility and stakeholders to be able to come to agreement. And it's important to recognize that these are sophisticated parties. And I don't know that there's any evidence that anything was coerced. I think these are sophisticated parties who know what they're doing. And with respect to the Good Neighbor Fund, I would just note that it is directly related to the customers. So I did not share the same concerns that Commissioner Nybert expressed. I think that if we're talking about other charities, that are completely unrelated, maybe there's something there, but I don't think this case shows any of that. And so I just wanted to provide those comments in response. And also, more importantly, focus on the fact that the parties here were able to come to a just and reasonable resolution for this case. And that certainly is appreciated.
Well, thank you to both of you. That's something that when this commission transitioned to the current makeup, it was one of the messages I heard was it's very important for us to be transparent in our deliberation and our decision making. And I think this is a great example of that, that I think is important for us as commissioners to let people know individually what we're thinking about and how we evaluated this. Personally, I agree with what's in the final order here that, the test when we get a stipulation, especially a unanimous stipulation, is that it must be tested just to make sure it's the product of serious bargaining among capable and knowledgeable parties and whether the stipulation on the whole benefits customers and the public interest. We did that. I've been tracking this case since its inception, and so I understood this stipulation when it came through. I saw how things had changed from the application. We had a hearing on the stipulation. They had people affirmatively saying why the stipulation's in the public interest, even the company, when what they agreed to in stipulation was so much significantly different than what they had filed for in the application. So that's a process we followed. As a consumer, how does it benefit me to raise my rates? That was where I land on that is just the fact that we need electricity, and it's also the fact of life that things are getting more expensive. So it's not something that I do lightly or easily. I spent a lot of time on this case before today. So I just didn't want to make it look like, since this debate isn't as protracted or in depth as some of the other cases that have come before us, that doesn't mean that care and investment hasn't gone into today. I think it's more a reflection of the fact that for me, one of the points of reasonableness is if the parties come together and agree that what we're giving you is a reasonable outcome, that's persuasive. So unanimous settlement is persuasive. To Commissioner Nybert's point, every time we've had a stipulation, there have been elements in there that I might have personally negotiated differently. And I think it was worth it for you to make the statement you did, because some of these, like, I would have done something different, but I can live with it. If I would have done something different, but I wouldn't have lived with it when I'm at the negotiating table, we absolutely should point that out. So appreciate that you did that here today, Commissioner. Then, since we've each had our first chance, is there any other discussion? Then I will move for approval of the final order proposed in this case.
I'll second.
Mr. Cameron.
Commissioner Nybert,
Yes.
Commissioner O'Connell,
Yes.
Commissioner Aguilera.
Yes.
The motion to approve the order in 240089 UT passes unanimously, Mr. Chair.
Great, thank you. Next on the regular action item agenda is case 2400154 UT. That is El Paso Electric Company's application for approval of its 2025-2027 energy efficiency and load management plan. We'll start with a presentation from Mr. Fisk from the Office of General Counsel. You have the floor, sir.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. What you have before you is a proposed final order regarding El Paso Electric Company's 2025 to 2027 energy efficiency and load management plan. The recommended decision of the hearing examiners recommended acceptance of EPE's proposed plan with some modifications which were agreed to by EPE during the pendency of the case. The order that I've drafted would adopt the recommended decision as modified by the Commission's acceptance of staff's exception number 1 and EPE's exceptions number 1 through 3. Just to do a quick brief overview of the order. The order would decide with regard to staff's exception number 1. The Commission would adopt staff's finding that the plain language of the Efficient Use of Energy Act excludes EPE's claimed avoided emissions benefit from the utility cost test. The order would also reject staff's exception number 2, which is staff's particularized request for special reporting by EPE, for the reason that EPE has agreed in the case to provide information upon staff's request. It would accept EPE's proposal to modify decretal paragraph C regarding the procedure for filing a revised energy efficiency rider. The order would adopt EPE's proposed language, allowing EPE to reevaluate programs and propose modifications. That's with regard to a specific program. And finally, the order would have the Commission accept EPE's proposal to remove the requirement for a bill insert with regard to notifying customers regarding the various energy efficiency programs. EPE had argued that this would significantly raise costs to the ratepayers. And with that, I will take any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Fisk. Do we have any questions for Mr. Fisk?
Mr. Chair, I do have just one kind of overarching question. Since we're making exceptions to the recommended decision, why are you recommending we not just rewrite the order and have our decision with whatever changes we want to make? I understand if we're taking the recommended decision and agree totally with it, we just approve the recommended decision. But in this case, we're making exceptions to the recommended decision. Why don't we just rewrite the decision as our own with the things we want incorporated in it?
Well, Commissioner Nybert, that would be an option. And I think there probably are some cases where, final order deviates so much from recommended decision that it would be a good idea to just have a final order that, maybe that only refers to the RD and doesn't actually adopt any parts of it. But though there are a lot of acceptance of exceptions here, they really are, with the exception of the first exception by staff, they are quite particular. And there's plenty in the RD. There are plenty of findings and conclusions in the RD, and indeed orders and recommended orders in the RD that I think the Commission would want to keep. And if the Commission did an entirely new order, would have to recreate some of those sections. But I think it still makes sense to adopt quite a bit of the RD.
Well, it just seems to me that we're asking people to read two documents instead of reading one document. And so if we're making changes, why don't we, I mean, in essence, cut and paste, if you will, cut and paste what we need to cut and paste and add the stuff that we want to add and have a final order of this commission. Because right now, if we do what you're suggesting, people interested in this case are going to have to look at our decision. Then they're going to have to go back and read the recommended decision. Where if we're doing what I'm suggesting, they just have to read our decision. Everything will be in our decision, right?
Yeah, Commissioner Ibert, that is something we could do. We could, this has been our usual practice, but we could change our usual practice. We do attach the RDs to the order, but yes, that does mean you have to go back and forth. And maybe it would make sense to just do, where there are significant, departures from the RD, maybe it would make sense to do final orders that don't incorporate any part of the RD.
It seems to me that, yeah, I don't know if this is the case, but if that's a regular thing that we just make people read two documents, I think we ought to change our policy. And I think we ought to make it easy on people who are dealing with the works of this commission. And people don't need to read two documents when they can read one document. You know, so I don't know that it's worth upsetting the apple cart on this one thing, but if that's our procedure, I would suggest we change our procedure, because with word processing, it's not that difficult to do what I'm suggesting.
Correct.
And so I would think we'd be doing a service to the public by trying to have them only read one document instead of having to read multiple documents. That's my comment. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
I agree that it would make it easier for the parties if we had one final document. That what you're mentioning, Commissioner Nybert, is something that I struggled with initially as well. And it is difficult when you are trying to go back to a case to see what the precedent was in that case, and then you need to go back and check that it wasn't changed in the final order, which, you do that anyway. You check for rehearings and, appeals and those things. But I think that does add, it facilitates us being able to be more consistent in our decisions in the future, because it makes it easier to be certain that you are dealing with the correct final facts of an order. One thing that I would need in that process, and this is certainly something we can talk about, would be to know what has changed. So as people as advocacy advisory staff know, I like to see red lines. That just makes it easier for me to be able to compare one document to another. But I think that's a good suggestion. I mean, obviously FGC it would impact them greatly, and so we'd want to think through those things. But I would also support that.
Mr. Chair, if you would like, I think we could instruct the Office of General Counsel to prepare an order that does exactly that. We're approving it, but come up with the format that would incorporate our changes and have it be our final order instead of adopting the recommended decision with these changes. We could have the order just changed. It's our order, and it will maybe refer to the recommended decision because it's part of the record, but but the order ought to stand on its own, and we could simply incorporate these three changes that were suggested, which I don't have a problem changing, but I'm just trying to make it easier on folks that are dealing with our product, which is our orders that come out of this commission. So if you would like me to make that motion, I'm happy to, or we could work with Office of General Counsel to maybe avoid having these types of things occur in the future.
Yeah, I would prefer to work on this in the future, just because I think we should decide this case today, and we won't get that if we go down that road. And then the other thing I think we need to think about is, hearing examiners have been recalibrating and rethinking about how to write recommended decisions. So the concern that Mr. Fisk addressed is, if you end up with a final order that's as long as the recommended decision, are we helping folks? Maybe we are, maybe we aren't. But recommended decisions are getting shorter. So it could be what you're talking about is a lot more feasible than it used to be. Because it used to be to have like 300-page final order, and haven't seen one of those in a while. So anyway, I would prefer that. I think this has been a great conversation. Wholeheartedly agree with the goal, which is our work product should be easy to use and clear. So if we can make any progress on that, I'm all for it. But I'd say let's take that to heart and start working on it from today going forward, and then deal with what we've got on the table today.
I think we could have our cake and eat it too, because we've done this in prior meetings. We've just simply adopted the final order and instructed staff to then put it on paper and then add the signatures. I'm not suggesting we delay a decision on the order. I'm just worried about the final work product and getting it on paper as we would like. But I don't think, I agree with you. We shouldn't delay getting a decision made on it. But if that's your preference, I'm happy to vote in favor of the final order as it appears before us today. And I think we probably said enough to Office of General Counsel to maybe change that policy or that procedure so that we don't see these types of orders in the future. So I'm happy to make the motion to approve the final order adopting recommended decision with modifications as it appears before us today, and with the caveat that Office of General Counsel maybe alter what we see in the future if there's changes.
Yeah, I think that's a reasonable suggestion. Personally, I don't want to do that on this case because there's enough in this that cuts against my grain that I'd be uncomfortable with. I want to vote on what I've seen.
Well, then I'll make the motion to adopt the final order adopting recommended decision with modifications as it appears before us.
Thank you. We have a second.
I second the motion to adopt the order before us.
Okay, and then I have some things that I think I need to say before we vote on that, so I'll go ahead and take that opportunity now. Again, there's some things in the final order that modifies the recommended decision that cut against my grain, and so I want to explain why I'm okay with adopting these changes to the recommended decision. Primary biggest thing is bottom line, it's important to have energy efficiency plans in place and operating. So I think the final order achieves a situation where it's less likely to be appealed, which frankly is one of OGC's jobs, is to try to produce product that focuses on the substance of what we're after. And so we're not spending a lot of time in the courts hashing things out. So, for me, energy efficiency is one of the most important things that utilities do. And so it's important just to have plan approved so it can move forward. And then to the concept of we should include a cost of CO2 emissions in the avoided cost calculation in energy efficiency plans. Again, philosophically, I agree with that. It's hard to argue that we're not having an impact on the climate. We should. Energy efficiency is near and dear to my heart because it's the old adage that the cheapest megawatt hour is the one you didn't have to create. And guess what? If you didn't create it, it doesn't come with any environmental impact at all. So of all the things we do, energy efficiency is, to me, among the most important. Why I'm okay with rejecting that concept from this plan is, to me, it's so important that it falls into that adage of if you want to go far, go together, right? So just trying to insert that into individual company plans, like in this case, one company's energy efficiency plan, especially a company that relies so heavily on nuclear, their emissions profile is different than the other one. So it was easier for them to agree to that than the other companies might be willing to do. So I really believe that the right method there is what staff suggested, is petition for a rulemaking. And I know hearing examiner Hurst, and I love the work that she does, rejected that idea. But ironically for me, the thing that argues against not pursuing a rulemaking is the footnote in the recommended decision number 46 that just shows you that if we don't get that concept included in the rule, it might be controversial from parties that weren't involved in this case. And I hear you, the parties could have been involved in this case, but don't believe it was noticed to be a case about setting precedent about including CO2 in energy efficiency plans. So even though I want to do that, I want to make it stick. So let's get it done in the rulemaking. I also personally agree that UCT is too narrow. So that's part of the concept that includes this CO2 debate, and then also recognition of Mr. Simpson, who brought that up in the case, that if you think about what the goal of energy efficiency is, it's energy efficiency. It's not electricity efficiency or natural gas efficiency. And the way the law is written with UCT, it kind of forces us into those boxes. So even bigger than we should change the rule before we start doing that in individual plans, we should change the law, because we're at a moment where addressing CO2 includes using more electricity. So let's recognize that in the law when we're saying how UCT is used and implemented. And then there's a just side comment. First of all, I appreciate staff's efforts to ensure that this plan is measurable and enforceable. That's the thread I see through staff's testimony and the recommendations here. It's coherent, consistent. That's what I want to see. What I think is lacking there is balance. Energy efficiency, load management plans are one of the few vehicles we have to encourage, incent, approve innovation and improvements at the customer side of the equation. So while I see, again, they were trying to ensure that the plan was tight in terms of measurable and enforceable, did they go too far in locking it down so narrowly that we're not encouraging people to use energy more efficiently in ways that maybe weren't initially envisioned by this plan? So that's an open question. I don't have direction to staff on that. It's just for staff and parties that participate in energy efficiency plans. That's one of our big opportunities for innovation. So don't lock it down so tight. Innovation can't happen. And then the bigger picture, which I think is true for this plan and all the other energy efficiency plans that are either in progress or soon to be come before us, is I think utilities underestimate the avoided cost. So listen to what they're saying. Go to their IRPs when they're talking about how much transmission they're going to build. I've had EPE tell me that, gee, renewable energy might be a lot more expensive than it used to be. I don't know why they were telling me that, but if that's true, then we need to reopen this plan. So if they have underestimated the value of avoiding generation and transmission, these plans all need to be remeasured. So that's the thing I'm going to be looking for. We've got a lot of RFPs coming through. If the prices in the generation resources are higher than what we thought they were going to be, that's also going to come with a notice to show why your energy efficiency plan shouldn't be recalculated. And then final note on that is just last week, federal government indicated they're eliminating the Energy Star program. That's a fundamental element of how these energy efficiency plans get developed because it affects the baseline of what's cost effective. So as we understand what elimination of Energy Star means, that might be another reason to reopen these energy efficiency plans. So I know that's cold comfort for the folks who'd like to see price applied on CO2, but that's why I'm okay with doing that in this very narrow approval of one utilities energy efficiency plan. We got to go bigger than that. And so I don't want to make approval of energy efficiency plans right now difficult by adding a contentious or hard to implement issue, no matter how broad the appeal is or how obviously true it is. The devil's in the details. So let's deal with the details in a rulemaking, and then I'm ready to approve this plan and the proposed final order, even though I philosophically agree with the things we're accepting out. And as always, thank you, Elizabeth Hurst. I really admire and appreciate the work she does, even as I'm sitting here modifying her good work. So anyway, that I felt strongly about this, obviously, and felt compelled to talk about it before we vote. But is there any more discussion or questions before we go there?
Oh, Mr. Chairman, I just wanted to note the hearing examiners were actually John Kreinkamp and Christopher Ryan.
Okay, apologies. Elizabeth Hurst was on the other case that had the CO2 emissions question. So I also appreciate what John Kreinkamp and Christopher Ryan do here too. So, and if any of the hearing examiners ever have any questions about what I'm doing here, let's talk about it. So, because I really admire our team and it's growing and excited about the future of that team. So thank you for that clarification, Russell. But okay, so again, any other questions, comments, discussion before we move forward? No, I think we're ready to vote, Mr. Cameron.
Commissioner Nyberg,
Yes.
Commissioner O'Connell,
Yes.
Commissioner Aguilar.
Aye.
The motion to approve the order as presented in 24-00154 UT passes unanimously, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, and thank you, Mr. Fisk.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Commissioner.
Okay. Next up, we have a quarterly report from Pipeline Safety Bureau. Apparently that's online.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, welcome to the meeting, Mr. Montoya. You have the floor.
Thank you, sir, and I appreciate the flexibility in letting me present remotely. I'm a little under the weather today, so I apologize for that. I always look forward to seeing you guys in person, so I'll make sure and get back on track and reporting the quarterly more promptly. But as you can see from our screen, nothing's really changed. We continue to be extremely busy. The pipeline inspections that have been conducted as part of the first quarter is 58. And all of these numbers are significantly more than the first quarter of 2025. And I just want to note that that is what our target was, and that should be expected with the increase of the number of staff members that we were able to recruit. And so I think we've doubled the number of inspections. We've decreased the number of incidents or accidents that have been reported from 4 to 1 in just comparing the first two quarters from 2024 and 2025. So that's huge kudos to the pipeline inspectors being out there and educating and instructing operators what is our expectation and how to comply with the rules and regulations. To no surprise, primarily due to all of the fiber projects going on in and around the state of New Mexico, mostly in Albuquerque, unfortunately, the excavation damages has increased. That is 764 over the first 3 months. I'm very excited about the 88 outreach days. With the 6 damage prevention personnel stationed throughout the state of New Mexico, we were actually able to participate and attend every paradigm public awareness meeting that was conducted in New Mexico. And what those are, Commission, is basically the pipeline operators are obligated by regulation to conduct and have a public awareness plan where they invite public officials, emergency responders, the excavating community, and other stakeholder groups to come and have a breakfast, lunch, or dinner, and we are able to give a presentation. They focus more on pipeline safety, the commodities, the danger of digging around, or and how to be aware of potential leaks, gas, or even liquids. What kind of signs that the general public could be looking out for and reporting those to the operator themselves. As you know, in mostly rural New Mexico, pipelines are required to have markers, above ground pipeline markers, and there's supposed to be a sticker on every pipeline marker that has the contact information for emergency purposes, the commodity. And so we go over that and how the general public and emergency responders could actually respond in the event they discover something or see something that may be out of place. The online class attendance, I was hoping to have that a little higher in the first quarter, but I will expect that come the second quarter and throughout the year, that number is going to increase significantly because we are processing and distributing the notice of probable violation letters resulting from pipeline inspections, and most of this online class attendance is from the excavation damages that are being reported. So part of our enforcement procedure is to kind of put somebody on notice, and if it recurs itself in a short period of time, then we require a mandatory online class for that individual or for the crew, maybe even for the company, depending on the number of offenses that they've had over the last couple of years. I will share that we have conducted approximately 290 inspection days. Now, this kind of carried over to date, not just the first quarter, but we've conducted about 291 natural gas inspection days out of the mandatory 688. So that results in about 42% done, which we're right on target to meet that goal for calendar year 2025. We have accomplished 73% of our inspection days required for the hazardous liquid program. And that's always a program that we struggle with meeting. So I'm very excited that we are more than 50%, and we're not even halfway through the year yet, because there's a minimum number of operators in New Mexico that we regulate for intrastate purposes. That one incident that I report, if you're curious, that was an actuator failure, and the gas actually just released to atmosphere. The emergency procedures that were implemented, nobody was hurt. There were no injuries. It was federally reportable due to the cost of repairing the system itself. But thankfully, the system worked like it was supposed to and how it was designed. One other big accomplishment we had in Q1 is we submitted the end of the year progress reports. And I'll email Ms. Baca a copy of the gas and liquid progress reports for your nighttime reading. Those documents are fairly large just because one of the attachments has a list of all the operators, but you can basically see how busy the Pipeline Safety Bureau is and continues to be. And that progress report will actually summarize all of the accomplishments from 2024. So it's good information. And if you have any questions, please feel free to contact me and we can discuss it further. We have 4 vacancies. One individual is no longer with us, and we actually have one that will start early June. They are graduating from New Mexico Tech, from the engineering department there. So we're excited to bring on a newly grad. I think this is the first time in my my career that we were able to recruit somebody directly out of college. So I appreciate the commission's support in establishing those job classifications. And with that, Mr. Chairman and Commission, I will stand for questions.
Hey, thank you, Mr. Montoya. You know, I always appreciate your reports, and then it's funny every time we hear of a new person coming on board, it feels like we're on a great trajectory there. So thank you for telling us about that. I did have one question. I saw in the news that there was some difficulties with the folks installing fiber in Albuquerque. Could you give me some context on what I saw in the newspaper?
Sure. Sure, Mr. Chairman and Commission. There are a number of items that the city of Albuquerque has raised with these fiber owners. There's basically three companies. It's Gigapower, Vexus, who was recently bought out by Metronet, and I think that's the name they go by now. And I'm being told that in the future, they'll eventually be called T-Fiber. T-Mobile is going to buy them out. And then also Easy Fiber. The press conference that we had, which I think Chief of Staff communicated with you all, was around the Easy Fiber project and their stop to work orders that they have been issued because of all of the complaints that the communities have been submitting to the city of Albuquerque. These complaints, I think, are primarily focused around restoration, driveways, sidewalks, landscaping, all the paint on the ground, things of that nature. I have partnered up with the city of Albuquerque. We are collaborating with them very closely on all of these projects. And I am encouraging them to allow the PSB the opportunity, to conduct the excavation damage investigations and determine who is at fault. There'll be a press release forthcoming. I don't want to steal anybody's thunder on that one, but in that press release, we will share some statistical information from our perspective. Are there some issues? Absolutely. Do I believe the project owners are reacting and responding professionally, promptly? Yes. I've been engaged with the weekly meetings with all three companies and the city. I think I talked to Miss Catherine Nicolau, who is the project manager of broadband on behalf of the city of Albuquerque almost daily now. And so we share notes frequently, and we are supporting the city as much as possible. There are some issues that the city has that just aren't under the PSB's jurisdiction or PRC's jurisdiction. So we kind of want to stay out of the way and allow them to do their business.
Great, thank you for that.
Sir.
Any questions for Mr. Montoya?
Mr. Chair, maybe not questions, but I do have a few comments. Mr. Montoya, your ears may have been burning on Monday because the folks in Ruidoso expressed their appreciation to you in your actions and working with the first responders and the emergency folks during the fire event in Ruidoso, and was very, they and the Zia Natural Gas were very complimentary of you and your staff. So I wanted to pass on that people were complimenting you on Monday. And I'm pleased to hear that the problems that are being highlighted in the news recently in Albuquerque, I was concerned that what the impacts were interference with other underground utilities. So I'm pleased to hear that the problems really surround surface type issues and not fiber drilling or drilling under the earth and causing problems with water lines, with sewer lines, with electric lines, with gas lines, and other utilities that may be found in the right of way. I know it's challenging because we tend to put all the utilities in the same corridor. So it has to be difficult when you're drilling underground to keep from intersecting maybe some of those other utilities. But I guess my question would be, were any of the problems that have been experienced in Albuquerque intersections with other utilities causing damage to those.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Narbert, thank you for those comments. Yeah, that was a very challenging time because right after the fires, we had the floods. And so we try to assist as much as possible to our best extent, right? So thank you for those comments. I'll definitely share with staff as well. Regarding the Albuquerque fiber projects, now, if you remember, the fiber rollout really started in Rio Rancho when Comcast and Xfinity entered a franchise agreement with the city of Rio Rancho. So I already had a lot of lessons learned and the corrective actions that we learned from the Comcast project in Rio Rancho. Excuse me. And so I'm not going to say we haven't encountered any underground subsurface damages due to these fiber projects. What I have discovered is that it's not all of the contractor's fault. There have been some communities where the utility companies have either mismarked or not marked some of their underground facilities. And so, the public perception is, hey, this is the fiber owner, it's their fault, they asked for this project, it's their fault. Whereas when you dig into the investigation on behalf of the PSB, we determine the at-fault portion of the story. And so that doesn't really get a whole lot of attention. And so I'm not going to say we have not encountered any damages. I will say that we are working closely with all of the project owners and their contractors. And in fact, Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Nybert, we have been patrolling these job sites unannounced. And if we deem that something appears to be unsafe, we have been shutting that crew down until further notice and a corrective action plan to the PSB's likings is implemented on behalf of that contractor. So rather than, the city of Albuquerque issues a stop work order to the project owners, we're focusing on the actual excavation site and the crews working those sites. And I think that's where the rubber meets the road, in my opinion, because the performance on behalf of some of the contractors is superior to some of the others. We've struggled with out-of-state contractors. I'm not going to, in full transparency. Laws are different from state to state. And whether they came from Texas or Oklahoma or Colorado or even Arizona, they didn't get acclimated to how we do business in New Mexico. And so we've been having a lot of the New Mexico excavation law training sessions, hence the reason why that number is so high this first quarter. I think in early February, we had three safety stand-down meetings where I required all of the owners and their contractors to attend a half-a-day training session with us where we talked about the New Mexico excavation law. And so I think we could have been more proactive. And I say we because I think it's a shared responsibility with the Pipeline Safety Bureau, 811, project owners, city. It's a shared responsibility to protect these utilities. And so I've asked the project owners to be a little bit more proactive when they bring new contractors on board and send them through our training program before any type of excavation is even commenced. And I think that they will adhere to that request without us having to make it mandatory. And so that is something that we're looking forward to as well.
Well, again, thank you for
Sure.
being on top of those issues, being proactive. And I think everybody who has encountered the Pipeline Safety Bureau, your staff, even if they are being reprimanded or maybe on the short end of an argument, everybody appreciates the attitude that you and your staff bring to the argument. And I've not heard any significant complaints about how people are treated. And that's a testament to you, sir, and your leadership, and we appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Commissioner Nubbert. Appreciate it.
Yeah, again, thank you, Mr. Montoya.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda, we have communications with Chief of Staff, Ms. Corey.
Good morning, Mr. Chair. In front of you, you have the PRC request for the FY27 budget. I'm sorry, it was just habit. was in this room and I got ahead of myself. It's good to see you all here. Glad that we could. Glad that we could make this happen. As you all know, we're facing some challenges with our current building and what do we do with the third floor. That's probably on the top of the mind, so I will spend my time updating you about that. We are working with GSD. We're working with, and by we, I really mean Miranda. She's been putting heart and soul into this effort since last week when we discovered the water leak. But we do think that we are on the verge of having some solutions. And so as things develop literally hour by hour, I will be updating you and staff at the appropriate times for that. So thank you, Miranda. Thank you to the facilities team for the hard work and working with me to get us through a bit of an urgent situation. Also on updates, Miranda and Jerry have been working with other state agencies in the governor's office on SB 83, which is the Innovation in State Government Fund. That is $1 million that we received for FY26 and FY27 to innovate state government. They met with the multi-agency collaboration yesterday, and so we see where other state agencies are going. We have to report to DFA by June 30th. And so in the coming weeks, as I do these updates, we will be sharing that. We will be working with you and staff to fine tune that report before June 30th. And then lastly, because everything happens at once, we're in the heat of launching our e-docket electronic filing replacement. We've been working with our contractors, our project management team, and many employees of the PRC, we're calling them the subject matter experts, to figure out what it is that we're doing in the minutia of the details. Minutia of details, that means that we're like really in the weeds about what we do, the processes of what we do, capturing that, and then looking forward to what it is that we want the PRC e-filing and and document management systems to look like. So all of that is happening. That's more than enough for an agency, but I'm also happy to answer any other questions that you might have.
I think Commissioner Aguilera and I are getting used to the new water feature in our office and and appreciate your efforts in dealing with as you called it, the challenge that faces us with respect to the events that have unfolded that frankly led us to this room. So we appreciate your continued work on that.
Yeah, thank you. What we have next is communications with commissioners. Anybody want to go first? I'll go ahead and I've been, as folks know, on the road quite a bit over the last few weeks. Last week started in Omaha at the SPP Regional State Committee. Set a record for most number of things voted on, and Commissioner Nybert was able to join us there. Agatha Malik, who's COG chair, she did a great job of discharging her duty at that meeting. The big topic was this thing called ERAS, which is a policy that SPP will be filing at FERC soon. It's designed to get more generation online before 2030. So that was the goal of it. And so anyway, that was a interesting thing because it's kind of in addition to or on the side of the normal course of business for how generators get interconnection agreements and proceed. So anyway, that was interesting in that it's an exception, but I hope to me, the big focus there is how technology is changing things. So interconnection queues should not take as long to process as they have in the past. So I think that was why that was a big deal. And for me, it was okay to vote for it just because it's an exception and I'm expecting technology to solve the problem by 2030. Then I went from there to the United Kingdom, and the goal there was to learn how utilities there are developing demand flexibility solutions that customers can use. And you know, similar to New Mexico, they have a policy of pursuing a no carbon electric grid. And recognition by the government and the regulators there is that demand flexibility is it does two things. It again provides a platform for innovation, and it's one of the few things in that policy that puts money back in customers' pockets. So uh, that was the motivation to go. What I learned there was more than what I expected when I agreed to go. And you know, just I'm going to share more as time goes on. I've got a lot of notes. Want to start by talking to our staff about what I learned, and then certainly figure out a way to share with the regulated community here. But uh, bottom line is the incentives and regulation matter. They're a very different system of regulation there than here. Their suppliers have to compete for customers. And so what I saw is in that environment, so the suppliers value their relationship with customers much deeper or in ways that were unfathomable to me here, coming from working in a utility in the United States, that they really do try to develop solutions from the customer's point of view, and that because that's being done on such a grand scale, it's creating demand flexibility that the grid operators value its value for reliability. You know, here it's just something that, okay, you're doing that off to the side, but there, the folks who are developing these products are sitting in the control room, helping the grid operators deploy it in a way that helps with reliability. One just tidbit of that, a customer developed program that I thought was very interesting and extremely possible here in New Mexico is one of the suppliers is rolling out or is working with a home builder group that if you build a home with a solar and a battery, you're not going to pay an electric bill for the first 5 years of you owning that home. So, yeah, impressive. And, you know, it comes from competition for customers. If you acquire a customer, it's a lot cheaper to keep them than to try to grab a new one. So, different incentive. The utilities there also different incentive. They don't get incented for return on capital invested. They get incented for return on money spent. So TOTEX is the word they use. So instead of CapEx, TOTEX. So one of the utilities there, UK Power Systems, has learned that if they open up their small interconnection process, they have a grid facing tool where you can go and do your own interconnection study before you submit to the utility asking for an interconnection study. And what that does is it simplifies and makes that queue very efficient. People aren't just fishing with submitting interconnection requests just to find out they're expensive. Instead, they know they want to do an interconnection. They're allowed access to the information they need and a tool that allows them, helps them use that information that they can do their own study. So they're not just submitting things and then wondering what the outcome is going to be. They submit them with good knowledge of what the outcome is going to be, collapsed the queue. It just made life better for not just the folks wanting to interconnect, but for the utility managing interconnection. So bottom line on a lot of that stuff was just things that I've heard for my career are impossible. They're actually doing there. So I really came away energized, hoping to figure out how to make our incentive within the incentive structure we have now, make some of these things that are happening there that will benefit our customers, part of what we do. And then came back and we went to Ruidoso. We've talked about that. Yesterday, I had opportunity to speak to a pipeline energy group that was meeting here at the El Dorado Hotel. That was part of my duties as president of the RSC at SPP. So just presentation on what SPP is up to these days and reinforcement that what we're already seeing, that the oil and gas sector really is pushing hard for energizing that system. And then there's also just a super wonky presentation on pump vanes. So if you're a mechanical engineer, you would have loved that. But again, it's just an example of innovation and energy efficiency. So that's the kind of thing when I was making my speech about energy efficiency plan, there's always more to get from like the C&I sector, and they're working on it on their own. So partnering with them is a huge opportunity for efficiency. And then looking forward to being in New Mexico for the next few weeks. But then there's a big trip that a lot of us are going to take to the Western Conference of Public Service Commissioners in Portland, Oregon. And then I go from there to Washington, D.C. There's a FERC technical conference on resource adequacy. And again, as president of SPPRSC, I'm on a panel on the second day of that. So a little bit more traveling, and then looking forward to a summer of enjoying New Mexico. So that's what I've been up to.
I can go next. Thank you for those updates. Just kind of sticking along those same lines of the travel and conferences and discussions that we're having. On next Tuesday, I'm going to be in Phoenix at the American Clean Power Conference. I'm going to be speaking on a panel about interregional transmission. I'll be going to the same NARUC conference that you just mentioned, Chair, in Portland, and that's in early June. And then again, to speak about transmission, going to New York for the 5th Annual Infrastructure US Conference. And so that's kind of what I have lined up. I do want to kind of switching gears now, I do want to talk a little bit about the idea of that Commissioner Nybert raised about writing our orders more, I guess, thoroughly instead of adopting what has already been written. I think this is probably a better a space on the agenda to talk about that, and just want to talk about it high level again, because it impacts more than just us. I think it impacts us internally because we're changing our practices. I think, I am glad that we approved the order as it was written. I also am glad that Commissioner Nybert raised this because I do think that it is a potential improvement. But I also want to recognize that people are used to our practice. And so I do think that this would be a big change. And so I just want to give our general counsel an opportunity to think about potential drawbacks and, just kind of hiccups that we might have. The parties and stakeholders who are involved will also need to change kind of how the way that they do research. I do think that having a final order that reflects fully the commission's decision in one document makes it easier and will help us make better decisions, because it's easier to determine what the commission's final order said and therefore carry forward that precedent. But it does affect people. The courts read our orders. They know to go to the RD or the order. And I think we want to think about those things. And so, I do think this is a conversation that we should have internally, but since we raised it, I wanted to circle back and just kind of give those thoughts, because I know that it affects people internally and externally. I appreciate your fresh perspective, Commissioner Nybert. It's one that I had as well. And at that time, I don't think we had the capacity to undertake something like that. But the chair mentioned that he admires the team that we have, and I think that, and I feel the same way. I think we have an excellent team, and we've been growing, and we're able to do more than we were before. And so it's kind of in that kind of with that feeling that I think maybe we could undertake a new policy. But again, taking our time, thinking through it, and then explaining to the industry what we're trying to do.
Yeah, thank you very much, Commissioner Aguilera. I know that those that read our work product will probably appreciate not having to read as much, and certainly we're here to serve the public, and so that I think ultimately should drive us to making it as easy as possible on the members of the public who have to look at the commission's work product. Back to the scheduling, I'll be chairing or moderating the gas panel at the Portland conference, and look forward to that. We've had some preliminary meetings, and I have a better appreciation for the tremendous time and effort that the two of you have undertaken in taking leadership positions in NARUC and Southwest Power Pool and other organizations that we are members of. And having witnessed Chair O'Connell in the Southwest Power Pool leading that meeting, we as New Mexicans should be proud that we have someone sitting at the helm of the Southwest Power Pool. While it doesn't affect all of New Mexico, it affects the eastern side of the state that is part of the Southwest Power Pool, and it directly impacts the availability of energy in that part of the state. And one of the big issues within the Southwest Power Pool is how do you get enough electrons to Southern Eddy and Lee County to service the oil and gas industry? And it's been 28 months since a meter's been issued by Southwestern Public Service because they don't have the quantity of energy to service the demand there. And there has been a transmission line approved by SPP to meet that need, but transmission lines don't get built in a day. In fact, I think SunZia is going on about 15, maybe even more years with respect to that transmission line. So, you know, all these things take time, and it does impact our citizens and the demands that we're seeing on the grid today. So it's important to have people engaged from New Mexico on these boards, commissions, and hopefully our citizens receive the benefit from that activity. And I really appreciate and have a better understanding of the time and the value of that time that Commissioner O'Connell and Mr. Aguilera give to these outside organizations, but they're really benefiting our utilities, benefiting this commission, and ultimately benefiting the citizens of New Mexico. And so I extend my appreciation and want you to know how much more admiration I have for you, having seen a little bit under the curtain as to what all that you all have been involved in. I'm proud to announce that I've completed, I think, all my ethics training. I did that this past couple days, and I think the last thing is I have to do some interview process, but I was glad to get those 30 some hours under my belt. And again, I am somewhat mystified why this commission has that hurdle to pass, but it's there, and I'm glad I've done it now. With respect to other matters of the commission, it has been a busy couple months of travel, and like Commissioner O'Connell said, I hope it does slow down a little bit for the summer months. We do have a neighbor meeting in Boston coming up at the end of July, and that event looks like it will be well attended. I was shocked. The Washington D.C. meeting drew over 2,100 attendees. So these are big events, and I'm pleased that we have money in the budget so that our staff, as Jason mentioned in his presentation, that staff can also go to educational events this upcoming year. And I hope they'll take the opportunity to engage in that, because it's important for us to get our work done, for people to be knowledgeable about the issues, be knowledgeable about the technology that's being developed at a very rapid pace that deal with the issues that we're dealing with, as well as learning best practices. A lot of information out there. People are paying attention, coming up with new ideas as to how the delivery of electricity, delivery of gas, delivery of other utilities can be made to benefit the citizens of this state and, frankly, all the citizens of our nation. So that time's important. Sometimes people think that these are just boondoggles. I can tell you, when we go on a trip, it's very rigorous, and it's a lot of information being disseminated in a very short period of time. And appreciate the opportunity to try to get me up to speed personally on these issues. But I wanted to express my appreciation to the two of you for stepping up to the plate time and time again to represent our state, represent this commission at those national and regional organizations. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you for those kind words, Commissioner Nybert, and then memo to me, ask you to go last every time. Any other business, or are we? I seeing no objection, we are adjourned.